right, thank you so much, folks. And I'm back for a special Halloween concert this afternoon. Yes, I am starting the concert early, and that's simply because I have a small local engagement here in Durango tonight. But hopefully a number of my regulars can join in. I tried to mention the time change on both Facebook and my last broadcast. So anyhow, I'm excited to do this concert. You know, I tried this last year and had horrible streaming issues that night. It looks like my internet problems have been fixed, judging by the last few weeks. I've said that before, so I don't want to jinx it, but I think this will be fun. And yes, hey Nathan, that's exactly right. That first tune was A Ragtime Nightmare by Tom Turpin, the father of St. Louis ragtime. And this is the first edition of the piece from 1900. There are two different copies of it. This is the very first edition. And I love the music of Tom Turpin. The legendary piano player Traver Tishner told me that if he could go back in a time machine, the one ragtime player that he would want to meet would be Tom Turpin. And I can see why, because he was very important in starting the ragtime movement in St. Louis. Well, I've got a lot of fun things to play for you, some things that I haven't played too often. Not all of them will be spooky, but maybe kind of have a title related to Halloween or just scary, sound scary in a minor key. The next thing we're going to do is Carbolic Acid Rag, which is written by a pharmacist from Oskaloosa, Iowa, Clarence C. Wiley in 1901. He named the tune off the shelf behind him, and the cover artwork had a great picture of a skeleton on it. So this is the Carbolic Acid Rag. At least that was one of the editions. This piece of music was so popular that it was published 3 different times, and I think most of them kind of had spooky artwork on them. And that's the Carbolic Acid, a hot rag. Thank you, folks. If you enjoy this kind of music, share the live stream on Facebook and whatever other social media you have. Please do that, especially since I'm doing the concert at a different time today. I want to try and find some new listeners. I would appreciate that, and hit the like button too. That helps with the algorithms on social media. Like I said, not all the tunes I'll play today necessarily will be Halloween themed. There's a number of really great piano rags that just sort of sound spooky to me, that are in a minor key, so forth, that I think are great for Halloween. Here's one of them, written by one of the only composers I know who grew up in Rhode Island. His name was Henry Lodge. He wrote a couple of great pieces, the Red Pepper Rag, and this one, which was an enormous hit, which I think came out in 1909. We're going to do the Temptation Rag. And there's Temptation Rag. Thank you so much. Let me double check the streams here real quick. Looks like things are working pretty well. Yes, Marilyn, I agree. It's too early to have a glass of wine. I'm not used to playing very early in the day. Let's see. Well, I've got 5 followers on Twitch today, too. That's fantastic. Thanks for joining me. And greetings. There's somebody from England. Wonderful. If you're joining for the first time, I do accept virtual tips for these concerts. You can just send in a tip on PayPal or Venmo. And until recently, I had not bothered to explain to people about the PayPal fees, but all you have to do is select the button that says I'm sending money to friends and family instead of paying for goods and services, and then no fee is taken out, and I get to keep the entire tip. So I decided it was worth mentioning that, something that I just didn't take time to do in the past. But hey, why not? I appreciate it, folks. And oh, here's a great Halloween ragtime tune, and this was written by the very talented and prolific Percy Winrick, who was from Joplin, Missouri, and he was known as the Joplin Kid, the Skeleton Rag. Let's see what the date is. 1911. So this is one of the classics of the period. Perfect for Halloween. The skeleton rag. The skeleton rag. Thank you so much. I have a wonderful 78 record of that. I think it's a quartet of guys singing the tune together. It's really a catchy one. Percy Winrick's music is not quite as sophisticated as, say, Scott Joplin, but in a sense I like it for that reason. It was very melodic and tuneful and easy for people to play and understand. Well, and of course I'm happy to take requests tonight. If you have anything that you want to hear, I always try and get in at least a few, even if I plan a lot of the concert ahead of time, depending on what the theme is. Oh, Leo, I'm glad you just got here in time to hear Skeleton Rag. This is a young ragtime player who's from Missouri. I know he likes Percy Winrick. I just played Carbolic Acid. One of the tunes I thought I might play, actually several of them, are ones that I often use for silent movies because they have a minor key theme or two. So here's a popular song that came out in 1919 and it was named for a silent movie star in a sense. Her name was Theda Bara and she was known as the Vamp. And so this is a very popular song called The Vamp from that period. And the chorus of the song, I did not know for a long time. Johnny Maddox pointed this out and told me the melody of the chorus in this song is taken from one of the arias from the opera Madame Butterfly. It's hard to believe, hard to recognize it, but it's there. So we're going to do The Vamp. vamp. Thank you so much, folks. I see some requests there. I always get a lot that I don't know. It's hard for me to sometimes to choose my repertoire because when I play for the general public, I get very different requests than I might hear in a virtual concert with a lot of you who are major ragtime piano fans. There's a lot of the more obscure rags that I've never played. Hopefully this is a good way to word it. You know, there's only so many pieces I can learn, and these obscure rags, most of the time I'm playing for the general public and I never get a request for something like the Creeper or Golden Spider rag. Crazy Bone rag might be fun. I didn't think of that. I do know that one by heart. Spooky Spooks, no. And I should have thought about Graceful Ghost by Bolcom for this concert, but that's another one I've never played, in part because so many other people do play it beautifully. Let's do the Crazy Bone rag now from 1913 by Charles L. Johnson, revived many years later in the 1950s by Johnny Maddox. And that's the Crazy Bone rag. Thank you, folks. I've never quite understood the title of that tune. The sheet music has a picture of like a candle in the dark that is being blown out. Just one of those silly titles, I suppose, of the ragtime years. Yeah, you're naming some more pretty obscure pieces here, folks, and like Mad Scientist rag. No, I'm afraid I've never played that. I don't like to play things during the concert if I haven't practiced it ahead of time. I may use a little bit of sheet music, but I have practiced most of these pieces. Let's do one of the more familiar ragtime era songs, which I also learned this from Johnny. He had the best arrangement of this, bar none. We're going to do Frankie and Johnny, which is written about a real murder that happened in St. Louis in October of 1899. Frankie Baker shot her 17-year-old boyfriend, Albert Britt, and they wrote a song about it. which was originally called Frankie and Albert, and then they changed it to Frankie and Johnny. And with it, just to add to the spooky factor, we're going to do the St. James Infirmary Blues. Here we go. Frankie and Johnny, thank you much, and the St. James Infirmary Blues. Oh, Snaky Blues. I never thought of that for Halloween. I might just play that in a minute, Frank. Hold on. Since I just did a blues-like piece, let's do a rag, and then I'll do the Snaky Blues. Here's one that I wanted to play, not for any particular reason, but it does have a real nice minor key theme to it. It's something, again, that I have used for silent movies. It was a major hit, too, written in 1908, I believe, by Ted Snider, a popular songwriter and music publisher who went on to write The Sheik of Araby. This is the Wild Cherries rag. Wild Cherries rag. Thank you, folks. Okay, let's do the Snaky Blues. I think that would be a neat idea. This is a piece that was written, I believe, in 1915 or 16 by the pianist with W.C. Handy's orchestra, whose name was Will Nash. And it's a favorite of mine. It was a favorite of my grandmother's. And it has kind of an unusual bass pattern in the second part of the piece. It also changes keys about 3 times, which is unusual. So here we go with the Snaky Blues. And there's the Snaky Blues. Thank you very much, folks. Okay, looks like everything's working. Now, I want to play you a couple of pieces tonight written by the great ragtime composer George L. Cobb. His biggest successes were popular songs, were Alabama Jubilee and Are You From Dixie, and but he wrote a lot of silent movie music as well that is really wonderful. And I'm going to play one of those pieces for you, and then we'll do a famous one, which I imagine a number of you will recognize. First up, though, is this tune, which sounds very spooky. It's called The Burglar Blues by George L. Cobb. And that's coming up next. And that's the Burglar Blues. Hey, thank you, folks. Hope none of you get any burglars this Halloween. Yes, I'm aware that the video shakes a little bit sometimes. That is almost impossible to fix because this piano moves a lot, and the camera has to be right next to the piano and the floor shakes. There's just nothing I can do about it. I'm afraid nothing is perfect. Believe me, I have tried many things. It also looks like the video cut out just for a second during that piece. That's discouraging. Hopefully it was only very short. And I'm going to keep going and now play the most famous instrumental piece for you by George L. Cobb. And I think this is just perfect for Halloween. It's very spooky. This is the Russian Rag, which is based on Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C-sharp minor. Probably one of the more, it is quite difficult because it's written in C-sharp minor. It's also one of the most dramatic and scary pieces in classical piano repertoire. Okay, Russian Rag. And that's the Russian Rag. Thank you, folks. I saw a number of requests for Russian rag about 2 weeks ago, I guess, and I never got around to it. So glad I could do it for you tonight. Let's see. Yes, this is for Yuri on YouTube. I know it shakes. I just explained there's not much I can do about it. This is a do-it-at-home, do-it-yourself project, I'm afraid. Nothing is perfect. Granted, I've never watched my own concerts on a big screen. I don't think I would enjoy that too much. Watching yourself play the piano is very funny. It's like hearing yourself speak. It never sounds quite the way you think it does. As years have gone by, I think that's because where the pianist sits compared to the strings, even on a grand piano, where you sit when you're actually playing the piano has a very different sound than anywhere else in the room. I think I actually play a lot louder than I realize I do most of the time. I was looking at my song list and I just realized that the piece that I just played, which was called The Burglar Blues, was actually the Bonehead Blues by George L. Cobb. Burglar Blues is one of his silent movie pieces. I'm not going to be able to play that for you tonight without the sheet music in front of me. I think that's the first time I've done that. I think that's the first time I've played an entire piece of music and called it by the wrong title. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm a little bit tired from playing the piano 7 days a week for the last 3 weeks in a row. After today, I'm going on a little vacation for a couple of days, so I'm looking forward to that. But I have a number of other pieces that I will play for you that I think will be fun for the concert today. And the next one I want to do, again, this is just because it has kind of a minor key theme and sounds spooky. And it's really a gorgeous piece of music. There are a couple of rags in the canon of ragtime music which are just totally unique, unusual, and beautiful. Often written by composers who didn't write much other music, and that's the case here. A few other examples might be the Lily Rag by Charlie Thompson, and there's the Meadowlark Rag by Thomas Pitts. Well, this is the Texas Foxtrot by David Guion, who was from Ballinger, Texas, written in 1915. The Texas Foxtrot. Texas Foxtrot. Thank you so much. That was written in this little town called Ballinger, Texas, which is only about 30 miles from Novice, Texas, where my grandfather was born. And the only other piece for which that composer became really well known is his arrangement of Home on the Range. He was one of the first people to ever publish that song. And he wrote a couple of other things, American folk songs, and he did like a special arrangements of songs like Turkey in the Straw and so forth. So that's the Texas Foxtrot. And, you know, I know this piano is not perfectly in tune either. As I say, I apologize. The concerts are not perfect. I really appreciate those of you that listen almost every week. I'm very grateful. It looks like most of the streaming issues are fixed. Fingers crossed. I'm going to jinx it. I know if I say that again, I'm going to jinx it. Well, now let's do a really fun and exciting piece that I had planned ahead of time, which was written by the great Jelly Roll Morton. I have been getting back into Jelly Roll Morton lately. I've always loved him. You know, if you wait enough years, I do forget pieces of music. And so there were a number of his tunes that I hadn't played for a couple of years. And this is one of them that I'm going to have to start playing more often. This is from the mid to late 1920s, I'm sure, and it's called the Dead Man Blues. Of course, one of the things that Jelly Roll talked about as far as being very popular music in New Orleans were the New Orleans funerals and the jazz music associated with those. And so I'm sure that's where the inspiration for this came from. This is the Dead Man Blues. Dead Man Blues. Thank you very much, folks. A creepy feeling. That would have been a good one, too. Let's see. Well, I never thought of that. The Ragtime Nightingale is kind of spooky. Come up with some more requests for me, please, folks. I'm happy to do them. I've got about 4 or 5 more tunes that I had planned ahead of time that I will get to here in the concert. You've had some good ideas. Crazy Bone, I never would have thought of that. And some of these others I don't know. Let's see. I wonder if there's any more Jelly Roll that would kind of fit the theme. I'd have to think about it. Well, I've got you all here online. Well, yeah. Well, I've got you. I might as well mention the fact that I won't be able to do another virtual concert for about 3 weeks. It'll be 3 weeks from today, which should be Sunday, November 13th. Somebody could check the date online for me on that, but I believe it's the 13th, and that's because I'm going to be out of town next weekend. And then I'm going to be playing a concert in Kansas City on Sunday, November 6th. If there's any of you that are in the Midwest, please consider coming to Kansas City. It's a group was originally called Kansas City Ragtime Revelry, which has been around for many years. And they switched it to Kansas City Ragtime and Beyond. I think that's a little more encompassing of what they do now, jazz and so forth. But the concert is supposed to be at a really beautiful new Kauai piano store in downtown Kansas City, and that's in the afternoon. Couldn't turn down a real live in-person concert, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And I think I'm going to be doing a lot of Kansas City themed music. So we're going to be doing the ragtime composers like Charles L. Johnson. I might even play Peaceful Henry, which was a rag that was written in Kansas City. That was a huge town in the days of ragtime and early jazz. I mean, music was very popular there. It was a big city for music, and we'll represent Benny Moten and Dana Suisse, who was from Kansas City. So it'll be a special event. I know I have at least one or two friends that are coming. Oh, Leo, I didn't even think about that. That's going to be pretty close to you. Sure would be great to see you. You should try and get your parents to bring you. It's 2 weeks from today. Yeah, you should really come. And I like Kauai pianos too. In fact, that was the first piano that I learned to play on. My mother had a Kauai upright, and that was the first piano that I ever used. These days, I love Steinways, and for uprights, I love the Melville Clarks, which are just beautiful. Now, let's see, what is next on the program? Well, while I wait for some requests, hopefully there's a few that I know by heart. I'm going to go ahead and play you this tune, which is sitting here on the piano. And this was published by W.C. Handy, the father of the blues. And I imagine the songwriters must have gotten permission from him to do this, since he published it. It's called The Ghost of the St. Louis Blues. So the famous St. Louis Blues, they've written a tune based around it, and a little bit of the melody is even taken from the original song. The brilliant songwriter J. Russell Robinson composed this. Lyrics by Billy Curtis, not sure who he was. This came out in 1929, and Robinson made so many fantastic piano rolls and a number of records with Al Bernard. They were called the Dixie Stars in vaudeville. And he wrote some standard songs you might know, Margie and so forth, and even piano rags that were published by John Stark. And he's one of my real favorite composers and pianists. I think what he did with this is just brilliant. So here is The Ghost of the St. Louis Blues. See if you can recognize a few snatches of the original melody of St. Louis Blues in this song. you so much, the Ghost of the St. Louis Blues. At the last minute, I realized I should throw in part of the original song. That's how I did it on my CD. I recorded that with Domingo Mancuello on our duet CD. It's one of the songs, also one of the songs that Emmett Miller recorded, who's a 1920s minstrel man that I love. He was sort of a yodeling blues singer, and he recorded that with a number of jazz musicians. And like I say, that's available on the CD. It's called Take Me to the Land of Jazz, if you want to hear it. Ghost of the Ukulele, that sounds neat. I'm afraid I've never heard of that song. The Jelly Roll Morton song was Dead Man Blues. Well, the opening bars are Chopin's Funeral March, which is also in the Desecration rag. I could play that. Usually about this point in the program, I also remind you that I do accept virtual tips for these concerts on PayPal and Venmo. And if you don't trust PayPal, I have a P.O. box on my website for checks. I receive them all, and I'm very grateful. It helps me keep this music alive. You know, in a sense, COVID was beneficial for me because I learned how to do these virtual concerts, and it has really helped my career. It was a struggle to pay the rent, and it's a little bit easier now thanks to these virtual concerts. You know, Alcoholic Blues might be kind of fun. I'm pretty sure that I could remember the whole song, including the verse. This is from about 1919. Let me do this for you now. I've seen at least one or two requests for it. This is called the Alcoholic Blues. And there's the Alcoholic Blues. Thank you, folks. The words to that are really cute as well. Goodbye, whiskey, you used to make me frisky. Oh, I've got the alcoholic blues, some blues. I was going to read you some of the words to this, the Ghost of the St. Louis Blues. I guess I'll make you buy the CD if you want to hear it. Here's a what you might call a standard jazz standard pop song of the 1930s, and the idea to play this just occurred to me while I was sorting some of my sheet music collection the other day. It's a gorgeous song. I've never performed it. Here's the original sheet music cover, and it's called "The House is Haunted by the Echo of Your Last Goodbye." This comes from a Ziegfeld Follies show, but one that was produced by Mrs. Florence Ziegfeld after he died. And she tried it for a couple of years in the early 1930s, and the shows were just not as popular. Of course, they had the Depression on as well. This song is from 1934. Music by Basil G. Adlam. What a name. Lyrics by famed Billy Rose, the great showman who wrote a lot of popular songs. And so from 1934, the house is haunted by the echo of your last goodbye. House is haunted. Thank you very much. I like this haunted house. Oh, I'm so glad. That's so funny. Okay. Really? Alfred Hitchcock used that song as the theme song for his TV show, the Hitchcock Hour or whatever it was called? Really? Huh. I've seen that show. Interesting. I'm checking Twitch now. Someone says, do the PayPal rag. I should write one. That is funny. Oh, I see a request for, what is this? Ghost Pepper Rag. I'm not ignoring you. I've never heard of the piece of music. Oh, good, Kylan. I'm glad you're listening. I started early today. Now, I see I had a request for the War in Snider's grocery store. It doesn't exactly fit the theme for today's concert, but I'm running out of tunes to do, so I might as well play it, and that's one that I know by heart. So let me tell you about this horrible, scary war. This is a song that was written when World War I had just started, 1914. The U.S. was not in the war yet. About 2 or 3 songwriters got together and wrote this tune. One of them was Harry Carroll, who also wrote The Trail of the Lonesome Pine and I'm something about rain. I'm always chasing rainbows. I couldn't think of the name of it. And a friend of mine in California who's a sheet music collector, Harold Jacobs, who's now in his 80s, grew up across the street from the songwriter Harry Carroll. They lived across the street from each other in the 50s. So I collect Harry Carroll's music, and this is just one of the funniest songs ever written. I guess we need a little comic relief since I'm doing a Halloween-themed show. This is how it goes. Gustafson Snider, a local provider of groceries, canned goods, and such, had heard of the war till himself and the store were both what is known as in Dutch. His brains had been feeding on too much more reading. He woke up one night in a fright. He fell down the stairs and over 2 chairs and turned on the grocery store light. There were eggshells bursting near and far. Above the Russian caviar, a Bismarck herring by itself was pushing all the French peas off the shelf. An Irish potato started to cry when a Spanish onion hit its eye. Frankfurters fighting all over the floor. Howling and growling were the dogs of war. There was Sonny Jim upon the shelf, swooping down with all his force. The paprika growing weaker shouted out, "Won't you open the door?" And a couple of tough piano rolls showed a poor Swiss cheese all full of holes in the terrible war in Snider's grocery store. Hans Gustav Snider. You're right. Close enough. Thank you so much. The War in Snider's Grocery Store. Thanks for suggesting that, Amy. Now, what else can I play for you, folks? Oh, back to the previous song, the Funeral March of a Marionette by Gounod was Hitchcock's theme song. That sounds more correct. I think I would have recognized if it was The House is Haunted, the song from the Ziegfeld Follies show. I wish I could remember the second verse to the War in Snider's Grocery Store. It's one of the funniest things. A Dutch pumpernickel attacking a pickle, attacking the fresh navy beans, and a Limburger cheese greatly strengthened the breeze with anchovies, beans, and sardines. We're fighting an army of Dago salami, and that's only half what he saw. If you want to hear all of that, you can listen to the CD that I recorded with Ian Whitcomb. I've noticed the last few weeks I still have a lot of copies of that album, and I'm very proud of it. It was the first CD that I recorded after I started studying with the piano teacher that I had at the college in Durango, Fort Lewis College, and I learned a lot from her right away, and so I'm still very proud of that album. It just happened to come together that I was staying at Johnny's house in Tennessee. I invited Ian Whitcomb, and Danny Coots played drums with us from Nashville. And the three of us made a wonderful little trio. Originally, I was going to have Johnny play on the album as well, but he had a cold that week. So I wanted to get him and Ian Whitcomb together, but it didn't work out. And anyhow, I'm still very proud of that album. Desecration rag. I think that's a great idea. I was thinking about playing that earlier. I need a couple more tunes, so let's do this number, which has some kind of spooky sounding stuff in it. This is written by Felix Arndt, who was a wonderful composer that sadly died in the flu epidemic of 1918. And this has a number of classical piano themes in it, which includes Dvorak Schumannesque played in ragtime, Liszt's Second Hungarian Rhapsody, and a number of pieces by Chopin. The famous military polonaise. I believe it quotes the A-flat polonaise as well. And then at the very end, you'll hear Chopin's Funeral March. We've quoted that a couple of times today. We're going to do it again. And this time, Felix Arndt, he was really brilliant the way he wove these pieces together. You can hear he actually sort of rags up the Funeral March. He doesn't play it straight the way it's written. Anyhow, let's do the Desecration rag. Thank you so much. There's the Desecration rag. Yeah, I imagine there's some of you that have never heard that piece before. Star Scream Pierce, whoever this is on YouTube, says, Rustle of Spring. Oh, hurrah! Yeah, Felix Arndt was really brilliant, and his, there are many people who have taken ragtime pieces, played them in classical pieces and played them in ragtime, only with that composition, he really made it just more like an authentic rag. It's just one of the best ones, and along with Russian rag, I play both of those quite often. So thank you for the nice words, and now we're going to go forward a bit in the history of music, and I'm going to play for you a slightly more contemporary rag. When I say I'm going to play a more contemporary tune, that's often relative. And this is one that was written in the 1960s by a famous songwriter named Glenn Rowell. And Glenn had been a radio star back in the 1920s as Ford and Glenn with his partner Ford Rush. And Glenn wrote the hit song, I Get the Blues When It Rains. Well, anyway, he was playing in nightclubs in the 1960s, and Glenn came up with this theme for a Halloween song. And then he played it one day for Johnny Maddox, who worked with Glenn. They had a 2-piano act and did a album together. And so Johnny sat down and made up a second part for it. And then Glenn turned it into this ragtime tune, which it's not really a Halloween tune anymore, but apparently that was the original idea behind it. And it just has a great driving rhythm to it. They named it for one of the nightclubs where they played in Denver, Colorado in the 60s, which was the Red Slipper Lounge at the Cherry Creek Inn in Denver. And so this is called the Red Slipper Rag by Glenn Rowell. And he actually published the music not long before he died. And he did not put Johnny's name on it, even though Johnny wrote the middle section of the piece. Red Slipper Rag. And there's the Red Slipper Rag. Thank you, folks. Knickknack says, this is my first time catching one of your live streams, and I'm a massive fan of your playing. Well, thank you so much, Nick, or whatever your real name is. Sometimes it's frustrating. I'm sorry I don't know the real names, of people's YouTube handles and so forth. Well, it looks like I had 9 people on Twitch. That's great. It looks like the numbers are a little bit low today, especially on Facebook compared to usual. But, of course, I'm doing it in the afternoon instead of the evening. I was kind of wondering whether afternoon might be better for people. It looks like it's not. I guess many folks may not be out of church yet or so forth on the West Coast. But I've got one more thing that I want to play for you, so please send me any last-minute requests. Speak now or forever hold your peace. That's what I say at the end of the night when I'm playing in the Diamond Bell here in Durango. And unfortunately, I don't know any of the Vince Guaraldi music. I suppose that's how you say his name. I like it. It's very cute, really. Not exactly my thing. It would have been appropriate for tonight's concert. So if you have any more last-minute requests here, please send them in now. I'd be happy to do them. I was wondering if I could think of another rag that I play for silent movies, something that would be kind of spooky along those lines. Can anyone else help me out here? I can't really think of anything. And I hate to stall on the concert like this. I never do this in a formal concert because I write everything down ahead of time, and I don't take requests, of course, if I'm playing in person. If you're anywhere in the Midwest, I'm playing in Kansas City for Kansas City Ragtime Revelry, doing an afternoon concert at the Kauai Piano Store in downtown Kansas City on the 6th of November. I would really love to see some of you there. Jerry Lanise, who runs the organization, said they're a little low on ticket sales. So, I'm not sure who this is. JKS on YouTube says, putting on the Ritz. I like the idea of that. I really do. It's appropriate for Halloween because it was in the movie Young Frankenstein. So let's do it. Putting on the Ritz was originally introduced by a vaudevillian named Harry Richmond, who's a real favorite of mine. It was a movie called Putting on the Ritz, in which he starred, and he even wrote like a novelty piano solo or two. He played the piano for Mae West in vaudeville. He was a little bit like an Al Jolson figure. I love Harry Richmond, but we're going to do Putting on the Ritz today in honor of Young Frankenstein. Here we go. Kelly Kaufman. Yeah, I do play a little bit of everything. I pride myself on being able to play multiple genres of vintage music. It's all pretty much vintage. I wonder sometimes whether I could find a lot more followers if I played modern pop songs in ragtime and posted it on TikTok. I probably could, but that's not what I love, and that's not really what I want to do with my life. I love bringing back the older songs that I think are so good. And so I have one more that I'm going to play for you this afternoon. I've been saving this for the last, and this is a sort of a Western song, which is written by a man named Stan Jones. I believe he was some kind of park ranger in the late 1940s. The original sheet music cover features Burl Ives, believe it or not, and then a number of other people like Gene Autry sang it. We're going to do Ghost Riders in the Sky, and this is kind of a little bit of a ragtimey style arrangement of it. I didn't know for a long time that the melody of this song is based on When Johnny Comes Marching Home, but if you think about it, it's pretty obvious. Ghost Riders in the Sky. Ghost Riders in the Sky. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you have enjoyed this spooky Halloween-themed concert. I sure had fun doing this. Maybe we should make this an annual tradition. And unfortunately, again, I will not be able to do a virtual concert for about 3 weeks. In other words, I'm missing 2 Sundays. If you want to see me play, come to Kansas City. But I do plan to be back 3 weeks from today, which I believe is November 13th, on all 3 websites, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And I thank you very much for the virtual tips as well. It's still much appreciated. Thank you for listening in the afternoon today. And I'll sign off for now. We'll see you in 3 weeks, folks. Thanks again.